Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
Maria.
whenever George is. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Trustee Gray is out of town. She's not here. First on our agenda is a presentation on an electronic parking ticket system called the T2 system. We had a flyer and some background set by the chief, and Adam, I don't know if you want to say anything to start with, or just let them.
I presented it already, but I'm not gonna do as good a job as John's gonna do.
Okay.
So John Holland.
John, it's yours.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Yes.
I sound like the old Verizon commercial. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting us to your meeting tonight. Hopefully, we'll be able to demonstrate and show you a few things that might be very beneficial to the town. I also have my colleague Andrew Robin is with me here tonight. Andrew is one of our software engineers and probably knows more about our software than just about anybody else. So I asked him to kind of stand by in case some of the questions go above my pay grade. I could always pull Andrew in and help me out with some of the more in-depth questions. But I think I'll be able to cover just about everything that you folks would like to hear. Just a little background on myself. I did meet with your chief back in July up in Menands, and I explained to him I'm a retired chief of police myself. And one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing now is because in my 41 years on the police department, much technology came in on my watch. Dash cameras and body cameras and uh, computerized fingerprint systems. And I always say the one thing I did that saved the town more time and more money was electronic ticketing. So I'm a big believer in this from personal experience. There's nothing more wasteful that a municipality does than handwrite parking tickets. If you think about the process, somebody has to go out in the field and they get their ticket book out and they usually write out a 5-part form and put all the violation information on it. And then they bring that same ticket in and they give it to someone in headquarters. They have to take that very same information and enter it into some type of a computer system to keep track of them. How else would you keep track of all these parking tickets? Well, with electronic ticketing, the need to do that completely disappears because, our electronic ticket writers that we use in the field, and I'll show you that in just a minute, as soon as you hit print and issue and the ticket prints out, data goes out through the cellular network, lands on our back office software. It's already there and it's available to be processed or paid. And it's just so efficient. I always say, if you could eliminate 50% of the labor associated with any municipal task, why wouldn't you do it? So again, I'm a big fan of this, and it's something I did in my own police department many years ago. So what I'd like to do for you tonight is the process I use to explain our system. I call it follow the ticket, right? Because everything starts with issuing a parking ticket and it goes forward from there. So to have you understand exactly the way the system works, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to issue a ticket for you. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you what the handheld device looks like, and we'll issue a ticket and then we'll see what happens to it once it's issued. So having said that, let me show you our ticket writer that looks like this. Turn it on here. So this is our electronic ticket writer. It's called the XF device. It's got a built-in thermal printer on the top, and it's based on an Android phone, which is the heart of this thing. We try to make it as rugged as we can because I know firsthand that police work and in particular parking enforcement is a rugged environment. I used to say police departments are like the underwriter's laboratory. If you want to find out how to fix something, give it to a police officer. We'll figure it out in the first 30 minutes. So, we selected this device for a lot of reasons. We think it's the most reliable device we've ever had. It's our third generation of a one-piece device. and it's manufactured right in Horsham, Pennsylvania, which is a good thing as far as we're concerned. So what I'm going to do is, if I have sharing rights here now, I'm going to share my screen with you. So you're going to see what I see on here. So let's see if that works. And hit share. It's not turned on. Okay, so I have to send a request. Okay, if somebody can enable my sharing, I will.
I just enabled it, John, but you got to remember you're talking to the village of Scotia. Town's a 4-letter word.
Okay. Oh God. Yes, I know. I have that written down. I should have remembered that. Okay, so let's see what I can do here. Okay, so all right. So now you should be seeing on the screen the dashboard on the handheld. Can you folks see that okay?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So this is the dashboard page. This is what your enforcement officers in the field are going to see as they're going about their rounds in the field. A few things on the dashboard page I'll explain to you. Some things are probably not pertaining to your town right now, but they could be at some point in the future. So I'll just kind of skim over them and let you know what this is all about here. So this go to meters here, this is what communicates with pay stations, those lovely devices that we see all over the country, where people can pay for parking, through a multi-space kiosk. All of that payment information goes to our handheld because the enforcement officers need to know who's paid and who hasn't. So if I click on this, just to give you an example, this is what it would look like for your enforcement officers. Now, if you had a pay station on Penn Street, for example, the Cosmos is one of our model pay stations. We just use this for demonstration purposes. But if I click on it, it's going to show your officer in the field the license plate numbers of people that have paid for parking through that kiosk and how much time they have remaining before they go into violation. Now, the ones that are highlighted in blue here, they are in violation. Okay, so your enforcement officers would know that if this car is still on the street, he's eligible to be ticketed. So I just wanted to go by that. As far as I know, you folks don't have any pay stations yet, but someday you might. So I just wanted you to know that we have the capability to take that into account. So let me go back to the dashboard here. Okay, so you're also going to see on here the number of vehicles that are chalked. I don't recall if the chief told me or if you're timing vehicle stays or not. This would be a situation like I had in my town where you have signage on certain streets, 2-hour parking limit or 1-hour parking limit. Well, the challenge now becomes how do you time those vehicles? How do you know when they've exceeded 1 hour or 2 hours? We have something called electronic chalking in here, which essentially is taking 2 photographs, one at the beginning of the chalk, the second one when the car is in violation. So now we have 2 side-by-side high-resolution color photographs marked by date, time, and GPS coordinates to show and to prove that that car was there in excess of 2 hours. And again, I don't know if you're doing that now, but someday you might. So it's good to know that we have the capability to do that. Moving on down here a little bit, the number of vehicles chalked would show here. Now, obviously, I haven't chalked any vehicles this evening, but I have issued a couple tickets here, and you can see that here that I've issued 2 tickets. And the device will also tell your enforcement officers how far that they've walked since they logged into the system. So we're kind of looking out for their well-being too. It's kind of like a Fitbit for your enforcement officers. They'll see how far they walk during the course of their tour of duty. Okay, so that's the dashboard page. So let's go about issuing a ticket and show you what that looks like. So your enforcement officers simply have to come up here to the 3 lines here, and they're going to hit issue. Now you're going to see a bunch of stuff here. Don't be concerned with that. You will not see all this stuff. This is because this is a sales demonstration unit. New York has its own ticket category, and there's a reason for that. Those wonderful barcoded registration certificates on your windows, they're the best thing that ever happened to parking enforcement. I wish every state had it, but they don't. But we need special software for that. So you see we have a special category for New York. And all these other categories are different types of ticketing we do around the country. Parking tickets is the rest of the United States except New York. So I'm going to select New York parking. Now, on top here, you're going to see this disappear in a second. Reverse geocoding. What does that mean? Well, down here on the ticket, you see the location, Mapes Avenue, and you did not see me put that in there. So how did it get there? It got there because this is a GPS-equipped device. The satellite sees where I am. Our software takes those coordinates, turns it into the name of the street that I'm standing on, or in my case, sitting on. In your enforcement officer's world, this would put them on the street that they're issuing the ticket. So a lot of the work's done for you already. You don't even have to type in the location. But it gets better because of this. These are your wonderful barcodes that you have in New York. And the only other place I know that has this is Massachusetts, and they don't do it as good as New York does. So if you're issuing a ticket to a car in New York, all I have to do is hit scan registration. You see that up on top, and I'm going to do that now. It's going to activate the scanner in this device, and I'm going to go. I just hit the wrong barcode. I got to go here. Okay. Okay, now all I did was scan the barcode that would be on the windshield of your car. And you can see here that it pulled all the information from that barcode on the vehicle, including the vehicle identification number, which is unbelievable. You know, when we first looked at that, we were like, why do they put the VIN number in there for a parking ticket? Because you can, you know, it's in the barcode, so we just extract it and put it in the ticket. Now, if everything's good here, in this case, we'll say it is. I'm going to say, okay, if anything was wrong here, if they painted the car or something, we could edit this, but we're going to say everything is all good. Okay, now you're going to get a bunch of pop-ups here. Same day issuance. That's because I wrote a couple of test tickets here. My office is below grade, and sometimes I have an issue with the internet here. So I usually write a ticket or two to make sure I have good connectivity. And the system is alerting me to that. Hey, you already issued this vehicle a ticket. But in the real world, you know, I know because I wrote many parking tickets in my day. You approach vehicles from the rear 99% of the time. You start to write your ticket. You don't know there's already a ticket on the window. As soon as you put the license plate in, the system's going to tell you, hey, this guy, he already got a ticket. You sure you want to give him another one? In my case now, I'm going to say, yeah, we're going to do that. So I'm going to say continue. Now you get this. Now, what is this? When I spoke to the chief, he told me that one of the issues that you have in town is overnight parking and, you know, how do you want to handle that? What do you want to do with that? I can completely relate to it. I had exactly the same law. I was the chief of police in Nutley, New Jersey. Nutley was incorporated in 1903. And in 1903, they put in an all-night parking law. And I'm well familiar with that because I worked the midnight shift for many, many years. And I thought it was a very good law from a law enforcement perspective. You know, it kept the number of vehicles off the street. And if we saw an odd vehicle parked somewhere, we would want to investigate. Like, why is that car there? Are they there because the resident just didn't have room to park it, or is it somebody intent on committing a crime? So it's a good law, absolutely. But what's happened now, in 1903, if your family had one car, you had a lot. Today, if you have two teenage kids, you might have four cars. Our lots in my town are 50 by 100. If you're lucky, you had a garage, and if you're lucky, you had a driveway. So maybe you could get two cars on your property, but you have four now. So what are you going to do? So a lot of towns are going to permitting of one kind or another, and I'll show you an example of that as we move along here. But what I did for the demonstration tonight is I created a Scotia overnight parking permit, and that's the Village of Scotia. So I created the parking permit so that you would see as soon as your officers scan that license plate, if there's a permit associated with that car, going to pop right up here and tell him, hey, he's got an overnight parking permit. So if he was going to be ticketed for overnight parking, the officer is going to say, okay, I'm going to cancel that ticket. But in this case, I'm going to continue because just because he has a permit, he might be parked next to a fire hydrant, for example, right? So I'm going to say continue. All right. Now we get this. You're going to get a lot of information before you even write the ticket. A scofflaw notification. Our system is going to tell you, has this vehicle been ticketed before? Have they paid those tickets? And what were those tickets for? Now, a lot of our customers use that information to decide if they want to boot or tow the vehicle. And I don't know that you do that or if you intend to do that at some point in the future. The point is, if you do want to do it someday, you'll have reliable information to base that decision on. Some towns will use a monetary value. If you owe us more than $500 in unpaid fines, we're going to boot you or tow you. Or it could simply be based just on the number of tickets alone. So now I have this scofflaw information, so let's move on here. Okay, so now you see, this is the ticketing screen here. So let's take a look at what's happened so far. Now remember, all I did so far was scan the barcode. I didn't do anything else. So we have the license plate number, the state, we have the expiration date here, the VIN number. Coming down, here's that address that I did not put in, the system did. Underneath that, you see something that says block number. I call that the Ithaca, New York thing. Ithaca, New York not only wanted to know what street they were on, they wanted to know what block numbers. We didn't have it at the time, so we added it. We said, okay, if that's what you want. So I just kind of left it there. If you didn't want that, we would just remove it. But I'm just going to say I'm on the 400 block here. Now, the violations, you would give us a list of everything that you conceivably write. You give us your municipal code, all your violations. We preload them into the system for you. And your enforcement officers simply have to click on this, and you'll see all of the different violations listed here. And these are all demonstration ones that I put in to kind of show you how this all works. So let me see what I have here. We got, let's do the overnight parking one because we're talking about overnight parking. If there's any questions, please just sing right out. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pick overnight parking. Now what that's going to do is it's going to open up the camera. Now you can decide whether you want to take photographs or not. If you do want to take photographs, you can take up to 12 with our system. And I would not suggest that you would ever do that for a parking ticket, but you could. We always say take at least one because in my experience, that's the biggest alibi killer that was ever invented for parking violators. And I know, again, from a long career in law enforcement, that every parking violator in America has a story for you. And most of them found their way to my office over the years to tell me why they shouldn't have gotten the ticket. Well, if you have photographic evidence, a lot of that goes away, and that's a good thing. So what I did here, I just, on my other screen here, I just got a picture of a car here. So if this was our violator, I'm just going to take a picture of that. Save it. We're going to go back. Okay. So now that photograph is on the ticket. Now, as we scroll down here a little bit, the note field, you can select from some of our canned notes here. You can create your own notes and save them, or you can just freestyle your own note and put it in here. Now, as I tell all the customers in New York, don't worry about the one on top. That's my New Jersey exclusive note. Defendant was verbally abusive. We take that off for free for customers in New York because I know that never happens in the great state of New York. But for tonight, for our demo, I'm going to pretend that it did. I'm going to click that. So now we have the overnight parking violation here. We got the photograph here. We have the note that they were verbally abusive here. Your permit information is here, assuming there was a permit. Now with that note, what I wanted to get to here is this. You can print notes on the ticket or not. And I would suggest if that's the note you were going to use, I wouldn't put it on the ticket and hand it to someone because if you do that, you're going to need another category of note pretty soon because things are going to go downhill fast. So I would hide that note like that. Now the note's going to go to the back office software. It's not going to go on the ticket. If you issue warnings in your town, and I don't recall if you do or you don't, but if you did, you could click this, and this ticket would be issued as a warning only, and it will say that on top of the ticket. This is a warning only. No fine will be associated with it whatsoever. Some towns do that, and some towns don't. So now, the other thing I wanted to point out to you here, you go back here. Okay, I got everything filled in. Sometimes I get talking, I forget to hit all the mandatory fields. Well, let's see what happens here if I hit print and issue. Okay, so as I hit print and issue, you see that the ticket is printing out. And as it's printing out, the data is going out through the cellular network. It's going to land in the back office software. And we're going to look at that in just a minute. Now, I did send Maria earlier some documents for you folks to look over. And I mocked up a ticket to kind of look like yours or what yours would look like in the event where you were to use the system. And a couple of things I'll point out on the ticket. I think everyone should have a copy of it. So the first thing you want to know about this is it's polyvinyl. It is not paper. If you try to rip it, I mean, yours will rip, but mine won't. You know, it's polyvinyl. It's kind of like the stuff that they wrap houses in, that Tyvek stuff. You can leave it out in the rain, the snow. The print on here is not going to be affected because it's a thermal printer. It is not ink. The image is burnt right onto the polyvinyl. On the ticket itself, and you can take a look at the one that I sent to you. The example I gave you shows you a couple of things that we can do with the ticket. You'll see the fine amount there, and then you're going to see after a certain date it goes up, and it does that 2 more times. That's what we call escalating fines. And again, I don't know if the village does that or not, but if you have escalating fines, in other words, when you issue a ticket, you know, it might be $25 if it's paid within 5 days. If it goes past 5 days, or maybe it might be based on the number of violations that you have. If you get the same violation more than once, it could go up. The point is, you know, we can set escalating fines on here as well to let people know, hey, you better pay it now because if you wait, it's going to cost you twice as much. So that's an example of escalating fines, as we call it. The top of the ticket is completely customizable, and you can see I just went on the internet here and I got the village logo and I put it on top. Some towns put the police department, badge up here. That's your call. We will design it any way you see fit. The top of the ticket is completely customizable. The middle is not. This is where we put all the violation. This is kind of a static thing. This does not change, but the bottom is customizable. Now, on the ticket sample I made up, I just put some general language. You've been charged with a parking violation entered above. To avoid additional penalties, payment must be received, or a not guilty plea must be entered within 15 days. And then it goes on to tell you how this ticket can be paid. It can be paid in person at the village hall, or if there's any number of other ways these tickets can be paid. You also see on the bottom of the ticket, we have a pay by phone number here. That's our intelligent voice recognition system. If you dial the number we create for you, you're going to get a recording that's going to say, if you'd like to pay your parking ticket, enter the ticket number, and so on and so forth, and you can pay the ticket over the phone. You could also go on your village website, and we would put a link on the village website, and I'll show you examples of that in just a minute, where people would be able to go to a online portal that we create for you. And then the last thing is that I want to show you is the QR code on the bottom of the ticket. If somebody gets this ticket and they scan the QR code, it's going to take them directly to the payment page online where they can just enter their credit card information and pay the ticket that way. The whole idea here is we want to make these tickets so easy to pay that people will. And I think there's a lot of things that work with electronic ticketing versus handwritten tickets. First of all, when you go to the window of your car and you see this thing on there and you look at it, there's no question you've been captured in an electronic system of some kind. You don't know what kind it is, and you don't want to find out. You don't know, is this going to Albany? Is it going to DMV? Where is it going to go? So people tend to want to pay these things quickly and clear it up. So all they have to do is go on the ticket, choose their method of payment, and pay the ticket. One of our longtime customers is Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I always tell a lot of Gettysburg stories because they have a wonderful parking program down there. In fact, parking revenue is the number 2 source of revenue for that town. Actually, it's a borough in Pennsylvania. But in any event, it's the number 2 source of revenue, second only to property taxes because of all the visitors they get for the history in Gettysburg. But what they tell me is they see tickets being paid within 30 minutes of being issued, which I repeat that story all the time because I think it's remarkable. But I think people are doing it because they just want to, I don't want to forget about this. I want to make sure I pay it and get it done now. So enough about the ticket. Now let's see, where did it go? I wrote it. Where is it? Let's find it. So I'm going to take this down. And what you're looking at now, you should be seeing the demonstration site we call the City of Rockburg. This is our demonstration site. Right now, I have it selected on the rest of the United States and not New York. I'm going to have to switch over to New York in a minute, but I'm showing you this one first because there's so much more data in here because we use this to demonstrate in the other states around the country. On the dashboard page, let's see what we see here. Okay, the action items appear. How many of the tickets in our system need owner lookup? Now, in New York, that's not really a thing in New York because New York Motor Vehicle is probably one of the best integrations that we have. You're going to get ownership on New York issued plates, whether you want them or need them or not. Because once you issue a ticket through our system, that license plate number goes up to Albany, they put ownership on it, and they send it back to our system. And again, whether we need it or not, most places with a parking ticket, as long as the ticket gets paid, you don't care who owns the car, as long as you get paid, the fine at your road. But in New York, the way they do business, they just put ownership on there, whether you need it or not. And New York does not charge for that, I might add, and we don't charge you for it because they don't charge us for it. Some states do. Connecticut charges 75 cents for every lookup. They charge that to their municipalities, which I think is crazy, but that's what they do. Ready for first notice. Now, I don't know what your current practice is. Do you folks send out warning letters at all if people don't pay their parking tickets?
Chief?
Through the court.
Yeah, the court is supposed to send a letter.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, some towns do it, some towns don't. I've had police chiefs have told me that I'm not going to waste a stamp on somebody who stiffed this once already, and I get that. Personally, I think there's value to it. And what you need to know about notices is our system is configured in such a way it's easy for you to print out the notices yourself and mail them yourself if that's what you'd like to do. Or for $1.30 a notice, we'll do it for you, and the $1.30 includes the price of the stamp. Well, I just saw some mail I got today, and I think the postage was 74 cents or something on the envelope. So it's pretty reasonable to have us do it. It's an optional service, okay? It does not appear on the quote that you folks received. There are optional things that we do that we can discuss if you decided to go forward. But that's what that is. How many tickets are in the system that are overdue? And this is one of my favorite ones here, pending collections. Now, I got to tell you, collection services is the best thing since sliced bread, in my opinion, when it comes to parking enforcement. T2 Systems, we kind of do everything in the parking world. We sell kiosks. We have a text to pay system. Obviously, we do enforcement. We do all these things. And we also have an in-house collections department. And all they do is collect on unpaid parking tickets. And they're very good at what they do. So as an alternative to sending everything to court, and the courts generally don't object to this because courts today have bigger fish to fry than worrying about parking tickets. So a lot of places where we do business in New York and elsewhere, they have decided to use us for collections. Now I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of how that works. Essentially, that could become a free service for you, provided you do it as we recommend. And what do we recommend? Let's say you have a ticket that's $50 that you're owed. And our collections department, after looking at everything, says, well, we're going to charge 23% of that value if we're successful in collecting on that ticket. What our customers do is they elevate the ticket by the 23% before they send it to us. And when I say send it, we actually extract the tickets from our system. You don't even have to do anything. All you have to tell us is if tickets aren't paid within 45 days, pull them out. You guys take care of it, and we will. The collections department gets it. They'll send out a warning letter. They'll make phone numbers, and they're very successful at collecting the money that you're owed. And to me, it's like passing the cost to the person that created this mess in the first place. If they had paid their ticket when they were supposed to, it wouldn't be going to collections. And again, no cost to the village, almost said township, no cost to the village if you use that service. So that's what that is. Let's move on down a little bit further down here. So this map you're seeing here is actually Philadelphia. Goes back to our origins in Horsham, Pennsylvania. We use that for demonstration purposes. In your world, this would be your village. This would be a map of your village. And what this is showing you, or the back office software user, is where all these handheld devices are in real time, all the time. So in our examples here, all you would have to do would be to click on one of your enforcement officers out in the field, and it's going to tell you how many tickets they've issued since they've been on duty. And if you want, you can generate heat map reports from here, which will show you where the tickets are being issued, and just as importantly, where they're not being issued, so that you can adjust your enforcement accordingly. Then coming down here, you have some metrics here at a glance, which is kind of nice. Tickets by officer. So you'll see each one of your officers listed here and how many tickets they've issued for a given period of time, whether you want it for a day or a month or, whatever you may want. Tickets by location. Why is this stuff important? Because when I was a chief of police, irate citizens would call me up and tell me how you cops never issue tickets on such and such a street. You must have an officer living there or something, and all this kind of stuff that went on. Well, I didn't have this system at that time. Otherwise, I'd be able to look right away and tell them, well, we issued 20 tickets here last week. But you'd be able to tell them that. If somebody called up and was complaining that their street is not being serviced, you would see right away whether or not you've been issuing tickets on that street. And if not, you would take the corrective action. Same thing by violation type. That's another complaint that you get from time to time from citizens. You never ticket people that park in bus stops and all this kind of stuff. Well, while you're on the phone, you could take a look at that and answer that question. So a lot of interesting metrics here. What I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to go over to the New York portal, and you'll see right away there's a lot less information in it. And again, that's only because it is New York specific. So looks the same, works the same. It's just that I have to go to a different place here to show you the ticket that I wrote. Now here on here, just to give you an example, here's Sally Wolf. She's one of our fictional enforcement officers. If it was one of yours, you could just click on it. And you'll see here, it's going to tell us that Sally's location was updated 29 minutes ago. She's issued 41 tickets and she's been on patrol. And again, if you want to do a breadcrumb report to show where she was, when she was, the system can do that as well. So let's get down to see what this ticket looks like in the cloud software. So to do that, I'm going to come up here to tickets. And I'm going to go, now this would be an example of somebody coming into your office to pay the ticket. You know, they walk in with this in hand, hey, I want to pay this ticket. So your personnel would go to the back office cloud here, go to the process ticket page, and over on the left here, you see all these different ways to look up tickets. You can look them up by the ticket number, the license plate number, the location. Obviously, if you have the ticket number, that's the easiest way to go. So I'm going to put this ticket in here that we just wrote. 350. And let's see what we find here. Okay, so here is the ticket that I just wrote in its abbreviated form. First, we have to find it. Once I find it, I click on it. And it's going to open up all of the information on the ticket. So here is the license plate number, the location. Remember, Mapes Avenue, that's where I happen to live, on Mapes Avenue. The overnight parking violation is here, the VIN number. Here's that note that I did not print on the ticket, but it is in the back office software here. So we come down here, I just clicked on show more, and you're going to see all this information here. Hey, he did have a permit, but that didn't come into play here because that wasn't the violation. Still going to tell you that they did have a permit. Now, one of the things we can do here is something I call this our GWiz feature. It's not a requirement in our systems, but we can do it, so we do. If somebody, you know, a judge or a hearing officer was looking at this ticket and said, where was this written? I'm not familiar. Well, guess what? You click on the coordinates here. It's going to open up Google Maps, and it's going to show you exactly where the ticket was written. In this case, right in my house over here. I'll try to zoom in a little bit here. Now, had this actually been on the street, I'm getting a little closer here. Yep, I'm right inside this little house over here. But if this ticket was written on the street, this little pin here would be dropped pretty much in the spot where the ticket was written. Like I say, not a big requirement for the system, but I think it's a pretty neat thing that we're able to do that. So now you have the ticket. Somebody wants to pay it. They come up here. All you have to do is say, okay, we want to take the payment here. Click on that. And it's going to open up the payment information here. Down at the bottom here. And it's going to have the total payment received and what kind of a payment you want to take, cash, check, whatever it might be. When you click on accept payment, it closes the ticket and marks it as paid. You don't have to go anywhere else for record keeping purposes. That ticket is closed and paid, and it's going to generate a receipt that you're going to give to the violator, and they're going to go on their way and swear that they will never get another parking ticket ever. So that's how you would pay it in person. What your goal should always be here, though, is to move as many payments online as you can. And during COVID, of course, that was a big thing. You know, a lot of towns contacted us. They didn't want anybody coming into their buildings at all. So a lot of people went to online payments during that period of time. And it's still the preferred method. So I'm going to show you what that might look like here if we were to set up a portal for you. Okay, might look something like this. That's a nice downtown area right there too. You could pick any photograph that you like. Some towns want to put their town hall there or their police department there. Some towns and some villages have nice, you know, scenery downtown like this one here. So I just selected this. I just made this up for the demo, but it would look something like this, and people would be able to, again, on the bottom of the ticket, they would see how to get to the portal. They would come here. They could search the ticket over here. Now, you can search tickets by license plate number or by ticket number. And since I use the same license plate, it's the only New York plate that I have, I'm just going to click on the plate number. Let's see what happens if I search for this by plate number. Just give this a minute to go through and look up all these tickets. We have thousands and thousands of tickets in the system. And you're going to see when this populates here, this is probably.
And this is a very minor question, but can you, having a background like that? Because this webpage doesn't appear very ADA compatible.
I'm having a little tough time hearing you. You said something about the background. What was the?
I can relay the question. So Justin's question is a background required because with the background audit, it is not very ADA compliant.
In what sense?
people who are visually impaired, right? That's what you're
Yeah.
asking about, Justin. So it's very busy. So could it just be like a plain background of the seal? You can put anything behind it, right?
Yeah, it could be. But Andrew, I think you have something to say about the ADA compliance, right? There's different things we can do with the portal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have a standard photo you can use, or you could use a blank photo, whatever you'd like prefer. But however, at the top of the screen, John, where you see the human being there, that's the ADA compliant logo. If you click the human logo there at the top, go back, John. It's the one in the middle of the screen. So search
Oh,
tickets.
yeah. I'm sorry. Got the
Yeah.
wrong one. Yep. Okay.
So
Got
the
it.
center icon there, if you click that, John, the ADA accessibility menu will pop open, and there's all sorts of different links there on the right. So if folks have any type of disability they might have, they can select anything they prefer, but larger text, dyslexia friendly, tooltips, highlight links, increase or decrease contrast. There's different types of blindness, color associations that you can choose, different profiles. This is all ADA compliant, even if you use your own image. But if you do wish to make it easier for folks, you can absolutely do that from the get-go and customize that background to be whatever you prefer. We do have, I think it's the county of Fairfax, Virginia, that has just a plain color background. They chose not to use an image. The county just wanted to use just a blank color background. So absolutely, you could totally do that as well. But everything is ADA compliant, and folks can click that ADA compliant button and change it to suit their needs.
Great. If you can't see him, Justin, his thumbs up. That was his question.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, great. Yeah. We try to think of everything, and when I was a police chief, everybody was trying to sell me everything in the police world, right? So I was sitting where you guys are sitting now. And I found that some companies were great when they were trying to sell you something, and then after I bought it, I never saw them again. And nothing annoyed me and irritated me more than that. What I think we do here at T2, which is one of the reasons I associate with this company, because I could just collect my police pension, put my feet up, but I enjoy doing this. I think it's a good product, and I enjoy coming out to the towns and doing demos. Um, I think that it is a great product, and I have no hesitation to recommend it to folks. So let me show you something else here. Oh,
And John,
yes, sir. Go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, while we're on ADA, there's also the select language drop down there at the bottom. It's a Google Translate
Oh,
link.
yeah.
There's pretty much if you click select language, John, and show them, there's pretty much, I think there's like 200 some plus languages here that you can translate to. So the standards are covered, plus some very, very rare, much more rare languages as well are covered there. So, it's pretty cool, and it will translate the button text and everything. It just will not translate the image, like the Village of Scotia, New York, and Incorporated 1904. If that's part of the image, it won't translate that. But the button text, the help text, everything that's on here will be translated automatically for the individual. So again, thinking of the patron in mind, we want to make sure there's accessibility for everyone, no matter their ethnicity or
Just select
culture or what.
happens with the homepage
Say that again?
for language, so we can see what happened with the main page there.
Yeah, John, you want to click one?
Yeah, let's see. How about Arabic? Let's see what happens
Sure.
here.
Awesome.
All right.
Love it.
Is the chief there? Chief, can you read this one? Because I can't. I have no idea what any of that says, but I think it makes the point that we're okay there.
Can I ask a question?
Of course, yeah, please do.
My day job, I'm immersed in GIS technologies, so these dashboards and GIS-driven data has been forefront in my mind for quite some time. The receiver on that device, how accurate is it?
For the GPS?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
so it's
a cell
Go ahead.
phone, 10 meters at its best. So your actual point can be 30 feet either way. So if you're talking about a no parking zone or something of that nature, to say, oh, my GPS point was 20 feet away from that sign. So what's the accuracy of the device?
So I thought the device in S24 Ultra GPS was accurate to 6 meters, but you might be correct in 10 meters. It's obviously environmental. A lot of environmental goes into the factors of that. But between 6 and 10 meters, really that's the accuracy. There's a lot of intelligence built into the handheld too. Obviously, as you pull open a map or you try to acquire a GPS signal, what you're going to have is a circle of probable error, right? That big circle when you load Google Maps or whatever type of navigation software you're using, you're going to have that large blue circle around you. That's what they call the circle of error probable. What we do is we ignore GPS if it's larger than a certain factor radius, right? So if the radius is beyond, and that's customizable, right? So if you want to say, hey, I want to exclude anything that's beyond 30 meters or 30 feet or 100 feet or whatever, whatever type of accuracy you're looking for, we have a default set. I think it's like 15 or 20 meters, but that can be customized to suit your needs. But yeah, absolutely. That circle of error probable, that radius, you can customize what that looks like, and we can ignore GPS for those. And then in those cases where an officer needs to relocate the vehicle, we utilize the street or the block or the address that the officer entered as opposed to the GPS. But there's a lot of intelligence, like I said, in the device in terms of like that chalking function that John mentioned. If you're chalking vehicles, especially, you need to locate them again. That's really the only case where you're looking for the vehicles again if you're doing that timed parking. In that case, the device will actually update in real time as the officer is moving about their beat or their path that they're enforcing on. The device will update and show the vehicles closest to them in terms of that radius. GPS of where they are versus where it believes those vehicles are. And of course, we also show an image to the officer as well. And that image is usually like the rear of the vehicle so they can identify that vehicle quickly, right? So as they're walking, the first, one or two vehicles at the top are going to be those two vehicles parked next to them on that side of the street, and so on as they, continue their path. That device will continue to update and bring those vehicles up to the top of the list.
Yeah, I
Hopefully
suppose
that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks. Probably some of it is the officer education of the photos you take to kind of back up the education of here you were next to the sign, you weren't 30 feet away.
100%.
And is there the ability, I mean, this might be like you can Bluetooth a GNSS receiver like the Garmin Glow 2 is the one that I use that gets you down into like a 3-meter accuracy. So it's is that capable in the device as well too?
So if it's updating the device's GPS location within the OS itself, the operating system, then yes. So we're retrieving the GPS from the OS itself. So if it's getting its signal from an external, antenna, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
These will operate like any cell phone. They run Android OS. They're Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra devices. So they're top of the line, just this past year's model. So yeah, absolutely. If it's operable with a Galaxy type Android device, then you could use that. I will say we have about 350 different municipalities across the country using the handhelds, and I haven't heard of any of them using it like a external GPS to clarify the location or get higher accuracy with the location. But you absolutely could if you wanted to. Really, the software is utilizing that as a kind of a gauge, right? To kind of narrow down the closest vehicles to the officer just for efficiency's sake. In terms of the actual issuance, that's going to be the officer. Right now, think of your current paper tickets, right? The officer's just jotting down the street name that they're on, probably. You know what I mean? So what we're doing by capturing the GPS, even if it's accurate only to like 10 meters, it's still more accurate than a street name, right? That could be miles long potentially.
Sorry, that's my technical side.
No, I love it.
No, hey.
Get me because we did some work with I don't know if you're familiar with the New York State Automated Work Zone Speed Enforcement program that's been deployed the past few years. We did some work with that too.
Yeah, I've heard about it for sure. Yeah.
So the T2 Systems, the parent company, is actually Vero Mobility.
Yeah.
And they are the nation's leading provider of red light cameras, traffic cameras, and the school bus cameras as well for those that pass school buses. So any type of traffic enforcement and, talk about GPS, traffic enforcement cameras, any type of enforcement, that's what we do. The bread and butter.
Had some, municipal processing charges with them because of the location and stuff. So it's just a.
Sure.
The last question, and I'm sorry because it's a geek.
No, let's go right ahead.
we've been producing dashboards similar to that. What's your back end? Is it Esri? Is it Power BI? Is it what's giving you those points in the pie charts?
Good question. So it's a mix of kind of special magic going on behind the scenes. It is all hosted in Microsoft Azure, Global Foundation servers. So it is an Azure cloud hosted solution. The data sets are basically raw GPS data stored in Azure SQL tables. And what we're doing is we're pulling that data into Google Maps. Mostly it's being calculated by Google Maps and plotted on the mapping by Google Maps, but the charts are Google Charts. And then also a mix of some that we've created ourselves. Some of the tiles on that dashboard are home built per se.
Yeah, that's because we're putting together the Esri to SharePoint through Power Automate stuff now. So it's just it's interesting to see other
I
examples.
love it.
other
And one of
examples.
the really neat things, John, if you real quick, just click view permits. I don't want to get too down a rabbit hole, but I want to show you real quick, just so since we're talking mapping. Take a look at this map here on the right. This might get you a little excited.
Sounds like a
Can
separate.
we set aside another hour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we could go into detail another time, but we do some really neat things in terms of mapping. You can actually upload a GeoJSON file into the software and actually map out all your permit zones and areas to park. So there's some really neat things behind the scenes that you'd probably love to get maybe involved with and help out, and that would be fantastic. But we do some really neat things in terms of the geo mapping.
An arts major, so we're gonna let you guys kick this off.
Yeah.
John, go back and show them how to pay that ticket. I'm sorry.
And
Oh, yeah.
They do have, speaking of hardware, are these owned equipment or leased equipment?
I didn't hear the question. Is it?
Are they owned? Does
Oh, yeah,
you don't
yeah, no,
own the equipment or
yeah,
lease
yeah. So you purchase the hardware. You know,
What
you
is
do.
the what is the average lifespan of the hardware?
You know, that's a great question. You know, the XF device is a relatively new device, Andrew. I'm thinking it's been out maybe 2 years. It hasn't even approached end of life yet, so we haven't set a time on it. I can tell you from the earlier devices, prior to the XF, we had the Sight Pro, and prior to that, we had the N5. That was our first two-piece device. The N5 came out of service only when Verizon dropped the 3G network that it was designed to operate on. It did not come out of service because of any issues with the hardware. You know, Verizon just dropped the service it was offered with that particular unit. Now the XF, I mean, with reasonable care, I don't see why it shouldn't last 5 years or more. Andrew, what would you add to that? I mean, I think as long as
The average lifespan across all our customers is approximately 3 to 4 years in terms of when they update. Now, most of those are optional kind of updates, not necessarily required. It's not like the hardware's, there's any issues with it. You could continue using it. In fact, we have a couple customers that have used hardware for over 11 years. However, that said, our recommended approach to the hardware is to upgrade the hardware every 3 years. If you think about cell phones, right? There's a new model of cell phone every year. And so we recommend in terms of, enforcement purposes, every 3 years is a good timeline. You don't want to be purchasing hardware every year. So the 3 years is a good cycle for your hardware refresh. However, that's up to you. We have some customers that refresh at 5 years. Some of them wait a little longer, some of them a little shorter. But the recommended timeline generally is 3 years. Our warranty this hardware comes with a 1 year manufacturer's warranty, but we have an extended 2 year warranty beyond that for a total of the 3 years, which is why we warrant it for 3 years. And then beyond that would be up to you guys. If you want to just replace them as you need to, or if you want to refresh every 3 years, that's totally up to the village.
So is that extended warranty an additional price, or is that built into the price that you charge?
It's on your quote. You should see something about the hardware care program. I think that's maybe the first or second item on the quote.
It's on the quote, but it is optional, so it could be
Right.
removed if you wish. That is a great thing to get, only because it is a new device that they will send you overnight. If there's an issue with any of your devices, we ship you out a brand new device overnight.
You know, since we license our software on a per device basis, it's in the village's interest to keep the number of those devices as low as possible to keep your annual costs low. Sometimes when I'm dealing with prospects, they'll say to me, well, I'll ask them, how many enforcement officers do you have on the street? And they'll tell me two. And then they'll say, well, give us three devices. And I'm like, well, why do you want three devices? Oh, we want to keep a spare on the shelf. And I tell them, no, don't do that, because you're going to be paying for the licensing. You're going to be paying for the data plan. You don't want to do that. The better way to go is to take that optional. It's $420 a year for each device. And as Andrew said, if you call us up and we can't resolve the issue over the phone, and we're one of the few companies in this business that actually supports the hardware. I've dealt with so many towns that use some of our competitors, and once they get that hardware, they're on your own. Something happens to it, figure it out, get it fixed. We used to be part of the same company that makes these handhelds. That's where Andrew and I started out many years ago, a company called Two Technologies in Horsham, Pennsylvania. That was a part of our company. Now, that was sold off years ago only because the company wanted to focus on software development, but we still had a relationship, unlike any other company, with that particular outfit in Horsham. So I would always say to you, don't buy a spare device. It's a waste of money. Get the overnight replacement. We'll do everything we can to resolve your issues over the phone with our support department. But if we can't, we'll FedEx one out overnight with a return tag for the one that's not working. You send that back to us. And then we have the choice of either repairing that one and reversing the process or just telling you, keep the one we sent you. Well worth doing. Just about everybody that I've sold the system to in New York goes that way. Sometimes I get calls from chiefs. I think it was Endicott, New York. They bought two of these units. They only had them for a couple of months. The chief calls me up and said, one of his officers put it underneath the driver's seat in the car. Next guy got in the car. Of course, he put the driver's seat back. What do you suppose happened to the handheld underneath? The screen did not do well. And he asked whether or not that was covered by the warranty. And this is a good opportunity for me to tell you folks, it's not. We don't cover abuse or things of that sort. We're talking about manufacturer defect. That's what we cover. We'll still repair it, of course. We'll still fix it for you, but there would be a charge.
But my next question is,
Yes, sir.
obviously, streamlining efficiency is important, but let's talk about with your current clients, what's the average default rate? You issue a ticket, you mentioned the collection services. How many of these tickets go unpaid? Because what we need to find is, you mentioned this is efficient,
Yes.
that it's effective, that it's streamlined. Do you have data to prove that?
Yeah, it depends on the life, what we call the life cycle of the parking ticket, right? So in your case right now, it sounds like the majority of your tickets are going straight to the courts. So the life cycle looks a little different than other towns. What a lot of our customers do with this software is it automates a lot of the courts end. So and it really depends on your ordinances and your agreements with your courts in terms of what you can and can't do, right? Obviously based on the ordinances. But what a lot of our customers will do is modify that life cycle of the ticket to come out of the court's hand and put those responsibilities in the village's hand or the municipal hand, right? So that our system can automate sending those letters, accepting those payments online and things of that nature. Now, across 350 customers across the entire US, and I can even run this for New York State and send it to you, or John can send it to you later on, but you're looking at anywhere between 60 to 80% payments, before, 7 days, 14 days. So anywhere between like 60 and 80%, I would say on average around 75% of tickets are paid before anything else happens, before a single penny has to be spent to follow up on those citations or tickets.
Not our
Now,
reality.
it depends on it highly depends on your demographics. We have some towns again where it's more like 60%, and other towns it's like 80%. Most New York State towns, especially where you guys are, actually my wife's from Hudson, New York, which isn't too far from you, just south of you, like an hour and a half or something like that. But yeah, we even had John actually just recently sold Hudson, New York too.
Yeah.
And I think their rates are
Hudson's a
around
customer.
70, 80%. Very high. The police chief there probably be happy to let you know. They've actually done just that. They've changed their ticket life cycle and allowed payments through their online portal. That's their portal right there.
Yeah.
So that's what we usually recommend because you're going to get a higher ROI on these tickets and there's less effort, right? Because it's automated. If these tickets are paid before a human being has to deal with it, there's no letters being sent, there's nothing being done. That's 70 to 80% knocked off the bat, and then you just deal with the last 20 to 30%. The last 20 to 30%, you have two options. One is a lot of our customers, the majority, will send a single letter, a reminder letter, after about 14 days. If someone doesn't pay within 14 days, usually they're not going to pay that ticket. So what we do is we send a letter to that individual. It's like $1.30 or something, John? Is it a letter?
$1
And it's a
fair.
reminder letter identifying, hey, you haven't paid this ticket. We know who you are. We know your address. And here's what will happen if you don't pay it in the next 14 days. At that point, you're going to see about out of those 30% that remain, about 15% of those individuals, which is half, right, of those individuals we mail a letter to, are going to respond and pay that ticket. The last half will not. So you're going to be left with about 10 to 15% left that will not pay the ticket. Some municipalities, some villages will just not do anything with those, or they'll forward those to the court at that point. Or what they'll do is they'll send it to collections and have collections take care of that. Which, as John mentioned, there's no cost to you, the village, for collection services. They will add their own collections adder. It's usually like 20 something percent to the cost of the ticket as a collections fee, as it's legal to do in many states, and handle that on behalf of the village. But again, all this depends on your ordinances and if you have any agreements with the court system and what you can and can't do per your local village laws.
And then after it, for your clients that take advantage of the collections service, what's the percentage of those that are obtained?
Yeah, let me take a look. I have a little
Yeah.
sheet here.
See if you can find that brochure, Andrew. I have it too, but maybe you can look in the background for it.
Yeah, I have the numbers here. So out of 260,000 processed last year, 5.2 million was returned to our customers. It's a 45% collection rate on average. Again, depending on demographics. And remember, keep in mind that this is probably skewed because in the larger cities, there's a lot higher of a demographic that may not, want to pay those tickets. The collections that we provide, by the way, I should say, there is no ding against credit records or anything, substantial like that, right? This is kind of just a more formal, hey, we are a collections company. We're attempting collections on behalf of the village. This is a formal letter. Please reply. There are things a collections firm can do for you. In some states, we can actually take advantage of the FTB, or Franchise Tax Board. We can check with our collections group to see if that's available in New York State. If for those unfamiliar, FTB, the Franchise Tax Board, what that does is it garnishes those individuals' wages to take payment for those tickets that are outstanding to the village, effectively collecting those payments through taxes.
Another thing I mentioned to your chief, I think the chief mentioned that you guys have a fair number of unpaid tickets going back over the past several years. Our collections department, should you become a customer, will go back 3 years. If you can get us the tickets that you have that are unpaid for 3 years, we will go back and go after that. Now, I recently sold it. Well, maybe I say recently, probably within the last year and a half, I sold this system to Batavia, New York. And I was at the New York Chiefs conference going back a few months ago, and I ran into the chief from Batavia, and I said, "How's everything working for you?" He said, "Oh, it's great." He says, "I just got a check for $20,000 from your collections department for unpaid parking tickets going back several years." So if you're sitting on, all those tickets that are not paid, we will go after them for you. And that percentage that Andrew gave you before is about double the industry standard. We don't collect on anything other than parking tickets, where some collections agency are general, like if I forget to pay my copay at the doctor's office, I get a letter from a collections agency and stuff like that. But all we collect on is parking tickets, and they're quite good at it. But we kind of digress a little bit. I just want to finish up on paying the tickets through the portal because I want to show you another important feature with that.
You can show, we gotta move along fairly quickly
Okay.
here.
Okay, real quick. So, well, first of all, you could sell your permits online here. I'll just show you that real fast where people would go to pay the permits. I won't belabor that point. I just want to let you know. So here's your ticket here. We would put a description on it based on your local ordinance. It would say here whatever you want it to say. This is just an example only. But I want to show you something about paying these tickets. This, I think, is important for you to know because this is something that's going to hopefully remove a lot of the headaches you have when people come in and complain about, "I shouldn't have gotten the ticket," and all this kind of business. So I just need to pull up any ticket here, and I want to show you another feature that we have. And this is optional on your part, whether you want to use it or not. It's an included feature. There's no additional cost to it. So let's say, for example, now I just ran that license plate. It's going to look up all tickets. Even if I had looked this up by ticket number, it's going to bring up all tickets that are associated with that car, including the ones that the owner forgot about. Now they're going to see them right on the screen. Oh, gee, I forgot about these other two. Now, If you click on this, it's going to show any photographs that we took. And again, you could take up to 12 photographs. You never will, but you could. But what I want to show you is this, disputing. Now, this is what you can use or not. Some towns use it, some towns don't. I recommend it. If you want to allow online disputing, we just enable this. If you don't want it, this will not appear here. What this does is it gives people the opportunity to vent on paper. That's much better than venting to me. Yeah, that's what they used to do. They would come into my office and vent to me why they shouldn't have got the ticket. If you give them the ability to vent on paper, my experience tells me that most parking violators just want to complain to somebody other than the person that gave them the ticket. They want to see if somebody else agrees that this is a good ticket. So they can fill this all out. They can pick any of the canned reasons for the dispute. This Megan, I did a demonstration in Glens Falls. Megan was the manager up there. So I kind of put this one as a joke for Megan. Megan said I could park there, but you could have as many different reasons as you want, or you can just make up their own stories here and put it in other details. They can add their own attachments if they want to. When they submit this, it will go to whoever you decide to have them, adjudicate these things. Now, it is not a judicial determination. I call this an interim dispute, but I think it gets rid of a lot of the things that might come through your door to complain to the chief or go to the court. 9 times out of 10, it's going to go like this. Somebody's going to review this. They're going to respond by saying, we looked at the photographic evidence. We spoke to the issuing officer. We believe the ticket is valid. We expect that you'll pay it. And if you don't agree with this determination, contact the court, have your day in court, or pay the ticket. So I think it's worth having that. It's a feature that's there. And, I recommend it, but entirely your call, whether you want to do that or not. So that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. So that's what it kind of looks like.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
the system work a little bit quicker than it is.
He's in a bunker, he said.
You're in a,
Oh yeah, I'm below grade here. I'm in a basement office here.
Yeah. that's fine.
And my internet's probably a little slow. But these are just other examples of some of the other portals we did. I just happened to have Hudson. You mentioned Hudson. I happen to have that one to show you. Here's Saratoga Springs, New York. They're also customers of ours. Hudson, you saw. Here's Beacon, New York. And here's Pelham, one of our newer customers. This is where this idea of the overnight parking permit came from. The chief might have mentioned this to you folks. They came up with something they call the HOPE permit, and that's the hardship overnight parking exemption. And they sell these tickets. They sell these permits here for $25. And if you can show a demonstrated need to have additional parking, you can apply for that permit. There's a lot you can do with permitting. It's really become a thing around the country, but that's kind of the long and short of it. I think we covered a lot of ground here. Does anyone have any questions on anything that maybe we didn't cover for you?
Got one. George has one first here.
Yes.
Just about the training.
Yes.
Our training it says quantity 1. Is that 1 per unit, 1 user, or is that like you can have like 10 people in the room or?
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's unlimited. So what we do is, if you were to sign with us, we assign you to a project manager. The project manager reaches out to you. They have a kickoff meeting. They tell you what the sequence of events will be, and they assign you to a trainer. We have a very, very good trainer. She's been with us for many years, and you'll get a schedule of all the training that's available. A lot of times, if you're doing permits, she suggests that you learn permitting first. Why, I don't know, but that's her technique to say, okay, let's teach you permitting. Then there's a section of training for the people that use the back office software. And then there's a special training session for people that are out in the field actually using the handhelds. It's very comprehensive. You can record it and keep it, for any future hires that you have. There's also, there's lots of things I can show you. I know you're pressed for time.
Cost, you have access to the training.
Yep,
I'm
and
sorry.
it's one training session, but it's unlimited number of attendees.
Okay.
And that training session, like John said, is recorded, so you'll have access to that. We also have free quarterly refreshers, so every quarter, our trainer actually hosts all of our customers and invites them all to join any quarterly refresher. Obviously, there's, some turnover in the public world, in the municipal world, so to help with that turnover every quarter, we have a full refresher training for the back office and the handheld software.
Last question.
I do have a question. I don't
Yes.
need long answers to this. They could be yes or no. This
Okay.
extends to like paid parking, like street parking, or paid parking in, say, a park, correct?
Are you asking if we do that?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
like you mentioned kiosks. I'm assuming those
Yeah, sure.
were kind of like paid parking, like metered parking.
Yeah, yeah. So we do sell kiosks,
Okay.
and yes,
The second question is,
sure.
is the system able to provide resident parking permits for village residents in a particular park or area?
Yes.
Now, would that
I'm giving you the short answer, but yes.
would that have to be opt-in, where they actually have to go to a website and fill out a permit, or can that information be provided to you and uploaded in the back end of the system when we roll out?
They would have a couple of choices. They would be able to apply for a permit online, or they'd be able to come into your office and apply in person. I want to try to.
So it's opt-in. Got it. Thank you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. We can, if you have existing permit users that you'd like us to import, we do import all of your existing data, both tickets and permits. So if you do have an existing permit list, we will import those. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you design the permits, by the way. You design it any way you want. If you want it to be residents only to go in this park, absolutely you can create that. And I just pulled up Gettysburg here, and I only did that because they have so many passes. This is not demonstration stuff you're looking at here. This is actually the borough of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and they have all these different permit types. And again, it's their number 2 source of revenue for that town because they do all this sort of thing. And here's an annual guest placard they have, and a primary permit, 7-day guest passes. They do all that stuff.
They're slightly more of a
Tourist
attraction than Scotia, not a lot, but a little bit. I think we're set, John.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Okay.
Excellent.
You
Yep,
both.
and you folks can just reach out to me, or the chief can reach out to me if you want to go to the next level. We can have a discussion about that. But thanks so much for inviting us in. We appreciate the opportunity, and you guys have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for spending time with us.
You betcha.
Pleasure
Thank
all.
you.
Take care.
Thank you, Andrew.
So the chief is very interested in this. For a number of reasons. For the reason, to do with the collections and removing some of this from the court junket and having this, be much more.
Can I ask a very simple data scrub here? Is it possible to get an assessment of the full dollar amount that we have
Yes, we have it.
back 3 years? And if we just,
3 years.
We can do 3. I can separate the data.
Yeah.
I would
I
like
have
to,
it by-
I would like to see what the total dollar amount is, because for me, part of this decision making is if we take advantage of their collection stuff and we figure, boy, if they end up with some 45% of this 3-year back thing, it could pay for itself. And I'd just like to see that.
Correct.
And we really have to look at the coding behind it too, to start, right? Like, what are the rules we can enforce that we have on the books today?
Well, that's 2 things going forward. One, I haven't looked at it in a long time, but I thought you had to have a spot on it that allows to tell someone how to not guilty. They want to. Which, 2, I know offhand, like overnight parking, certain parking tickets have stated dollar amount fines in our code.
They all do on the data.
They do, okay, because if they don't, it's always within
That's true.
the judge's discretion. So we either have to change or.
And we could update our code, like, we're not the first municipality to switch to this company in New York State.
Right.
You know, there's Village of Pelham, there's Batavia, Hudson, Glen Falls, Saratoga Springs. So when
Okay,
they
Village.
switched and updated their code, we could look at what they did
Yeah.
and say, okay,
I would just, I think we would need to make sure that whatever violations we're gonna put in there, it has a stated fine amount and then the doubling or that kind of thing. And I have one more thought along those lines. Yeah, I just don't know, and they know how it works. Normally, this does go through the courts and then legally, I don't know how we.
Yeah, but we can set it up. We can set up the process where it only goes to the courts if people plead not guilty.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's currently now they can take that one.
Yeah,
Right, they still send their fine to the court. I mean, it's still recorded in the court.
Correct.
It's recorded in the court.
right, but
They don't have to go physically to court, but
And
The
it's
court clerk
processed.
does the processing of
They do the
tickets.
processing, so I
So
just,
she would only do processing of tickets of people that plead not guilty and then are
Right.
processed.
so I just wanna make sure if we're pulling it out of that system,
Well, they're still
We're
gonna
doing
need
it
to report
properly.
on it, right?
you know.
I'm
Like,
not sure who acted if we give that to the court for her to access the report.
I'm 1,000% sure they've been through exactly this thing
Right.
before and they could say, here's how you tweak the process.
We'll talk about.
You know, if it's not, so if the court clerk is only processing the not guilty pleas, then who is doing the back end work on that? Is that something Barb does?
I think it's automatic through the system, but then whether or not, how that's positive
Right.
to the
Someone in the
village.
village still has to ultimately be
He-
responsible.
He sort of glazed over it a little bit, but he talked about how this would interface with the court. And so really, all of this stuff can happen behind the scenes where if it's paid and it's taken care of, it doesn't even show up for the court. They pull this up and they say, okay, what do we have going on here, right? He said there was an interface that manages that. We just,
My assumption would be that if the court clerk does it now, this is easier for her to handle, then it would still be her responsibility to handle it, but it would be easier.
right, my point is
Has access to that.
she might literally, they can set up the back end, so when she logs in, it's
can see.
only gonna show the unpaid, not guilty, it's only gonna show the stuff that's not been resolved.
but it,
Well,
Even the
we also
revenue
have-
would go through her too. It goes to the
Yes,
court.
someone
I would
here.
think.
Right, but I'm talking about from a managing the process kind of court thing. The payments,
ultimately, all that money is allocated through the court system, right? It's,
But it goes in the village funds.
right, but
Yeah, it's not,
the revenues for court don't change. The tickets are still revenues of court.
Oh, she has. to-
I just have a quick question, if I could, George.
go ahead.
I was just curious, Adam, just like the fire reporting software, the the interface between our general ledger as far as how the payments are accepted.
Yeah, I think that's what,
Can you email me that so I can send it to John? The question?
Yeah.
So I know overnight parking and probably parking tickets in general are incredibly onerous for the officers. So, you know, how do you see this technology making their jobs easier and maybe
So right, I
actually
mean, right
increasing
now,
the
from the
likelihood?
beginning to the end, on a paper parking ticket, it's carbon copy, you write it down, if it's raining, you know, you can't give them a ticket or snowing. One copy goes to the car, to the owner, one copy goes to our clerk, Barb, and one copy goes to court. They have to handwrite everything and audit everything, and there's no picture. You do write, like some people would write James Street, you know, where on James Street is it? You know, I used to write in front of, you know, 10 or whatever. But there's no evidence, there's no pictures taken, it's just your word. If someone pleads not guilty and you have a trial 2 years later, like you don't remember when you wrote 10 parking tickets a night on midnights, whether in fact the car, whether you can assume, but now there'd be, you know, a picture to remind you and show.
well, right, and people are gonna log in, you see a picture of your car parked in this spot, like, you're gonna be like,
In front of
you're gonna be
a
like,
fire hydrant.
you're gonna be like, okay, like,
The picture's printed on the ticket.
that's what I mean, like, you're gonna be like, okay, you got me, and like, the process right now is like, I think people sort of know you can play the game and you can either stretch it out so long that you never pay it or whatever. Like, this cuts down on all that because it's such a rigid paper trail and there's so much evidence from the get-go.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, honestly, if we figure out that we can send this stuff to collections and pay for this out of the past debt that we're not gonna get anyway, I'm all in.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Even if not, I think we should still discuss it, is my point, but that makes it like, for me, this makes it a little non-brainer. It makes the officers' jobs easier, safer, more efficient. It makes our court process more efficient. It makes us able to actually collect on that stuff, which like, we're not in a position where we should be turning down revenue.
Yeah.
But
That's the thing too. It's like.
thank you for bringing this to us.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see when because it has a 3-year total here of $31,000.
Yeah.
Once all the back end's taken care of, that pays for it, but what would be the annual benefit? Would we cover the $8,000? You know, 77. Once everybody knows what's going on and you know, that really detailed enforcement is going on, are we gonna still continue to have?
I don't want to get into a whole overnight parking conversation here.
Please,
No.
but not.
But with the permitting, their software, which they build the permitting website, can do limitations that I can't currently do. So,
Right.
like, someone logs in every day and puts a car in overnight parking, and
Right.
it shows up on our list, they can limit it to say 3 times a month. And it would reject it if they didn't.
Right,
But that,
Right, and I'll also just say that, listen, this is not an overnight parking discussion. I don't want to have that
No, we're
conversation.
not having it now.
But what I would say is, looking at this and now seeing people's ability, like right now, people don't pay anything to get the exemption, to get the overnight exemption. We could build this in where it's like, okay, you want an exemption, like you're limited to this many times. PS, it costs you this much a night. We'd have to change a code, but
Right.
it costs you this much a night.
Pelham, they have a construction permit. You fill it out, gives you a week.
Okay,
They have an overnight. permit.
Exactly.
You can do
We're-
3 times a month.
Yeah, yeah.
And they have their own permit.
we're not gonna have this now though.
Can we use this system for dumpsters in the road?
Yeah, you could get a construction exemption.
it just all has
We
to
also
be.
can use it if we wanted to charge for parking at events to.
It just,
park.
it
Let's
just all
go.
has to be codified, right? And there's
Yep.
a cost there as well.
It's pretty limited. They input they will take our address book, for example,
Yeah, this is all the
and put it
backend
into
set
the
up,
system.
whatever we
But
want.
it has to be codified. It's gotta be backed up by law.
Yes,
Like
Yeah.
those
We're gonna have
the
to-
permits, the
Yeah,
permits, the timing, there's gonna be a cost associated with that.
without updating the code book,
Yes.
yes, every local, we're gonna tell you that they charge for.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yes.
we
That
need
would be on
to
my agenda.
be mindful of that as well.
Great, all right, let's move on.
all right. So we talked about this during budget. I worked with everyone to create some new fees. I would like you guys to review these fees between now and our next meeting and share with me any thoughts you may have. If you would prefer me to put this on the OneDrive, I will.
100%.
Okay,
I would actually prefer a paper copy if you have a spare.
Okay.
it'll be on OneDrive in the morning. You'll notice that very few fees, residence fees, went up except for a couple that had been in existence since 2006. That the cost of some of these items has just gone up so much, keeping the fields up and take a look at it. And if you have
Next meeting.
questions,
Do you want us to have questions for the next meeting? You're not asking for us to vote next meeting.
no, if you can have questions, maybe we could vote, but
No, I'll
If
be
you can
honest,
answer.
this is so far delayed and we're
Yeah.
6 months into our
That-
budget
yeah.
cycle, I don't think we have the luxury of.
we don't keep really.
That's actually why I was asking the question.
And
If you can ask questions through the week, I'll try to answer.
And
Okay.
kind of the similar question too, does any of this need to be updated in code?
Not in code, this is.
Probably not, I mean, most of, anything that's there, our code probably says as established by resolution.
Okay.
Yeah,
by the board.
yeah, I don't think.
It's just
any-
stuff to keep in mind. It's not like we can't just hammer it through.
No, I don't remember seeing any
Yeah.
dollars in the code.
So we've increased beach pavilion fees, but the beach pavilion no longer exists.
Wait a minute, it was crossed off.
Reg 16.
It was increased from 25 to 30 and 75 to 100. That pavilion.
Your original one, so.
Yeah, that's being crossed off. I'm sorry. I gave you one without a cross.
There's not even a beach pavilion anymore.
There's not even a pavilion. It's gonna be crossed off. Okay? The rest of them I did cross off. I don't know why that.
I can go sit there on the beach, can't I? Just on a lifeguard.
What's the number that quantifies a mass gathering?
1,000.
1,000 people?
Well, there's different thresholds that categorize it as a, yeah.
Is that one of your questions?
Yeah, because it's here under, work fees, mass gathering permit.
I will look into that.
300.
That's all.
It's increasing it to 300.
I'll look
It's
into
in
it.
our code, I think.
Yeah, I'll look into code. Okay, guys,
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
But I think we should try, if we can all look through this and get questions asked, we should try to vote on this as soon as possible.
yes, I would like to do it next meeting.
Great.
Okay. You can participate in this conversation, parade. I'd like us to do the parade again. I did sign up with, the clerk of the legislature.
You did, huh?
I did. I can always back it off if nobody wants to do it.
I'll do it.
I'm interested, Heather's interested, George is interested, you can't.
Sorry.
Ryan was gonna reach out to some of his folks.
Sounds like I might be an inflatable gingerbread man.
Oh, jeez.
Perfect.
I'd really like to do is if we can get some kind of float.
What's the date again?
George has a trailer he could turn into a float.
Well, the
Yeah.
trailer needs,
November 26th.
Oh, George has at least one boat that could be turned into a float.
November
Maybe you could
22nd.
daisy
This is
chain the
true.
boat.
this is true.
A series of floats.
So let's try to get some ideas together, and Ryan, if you don't mind just putting it out to the guys, if anybody wants to.
If George had a 20 by 30 pole barn, he'd have lots of them.
The theme is. That's the
The
theme.
theme is what you want to make it. That's why I'm an
Even
inflatable gingerbread
celebrating the
man.
holidays in the spirit of. Steve.
Oh, and I spoiled it to all the viewers.
All right. Next. Agenda planning. Justin gave me one for the agenda.
Yes,
What was it?
that was the comprehensive park plan.
That's for the work session, the following work session.
Which is part of the strategic plan.
What, for the next meeting, does anyone?
What, for the next work session
No,
meeting?
for the next regular meeting. The one Wednesday, anyone? have-
I'll ask Jamie if she's had a chance to make those edits to the ZBA documents, but we could kick that back. up.
Okay,
I'll ask her.
I'll get and we're gonna have this on the agenda park schedule,
Great.
or fee schedule, I'm sorry. Okay,
Have we had any formal kind of conclusion on the special events things?
That is the other
That
thing
is-
that needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
We need to set a special events vendor permit. We also need to determine a village special events committee and what that looks like and the structure. And ensure that all village special events operate within
Of
the
settled-
bounds.
Trustee Cook had sent a proposed structure for that a while ago. I would recommend we dig that out and see if we don't have to recreate something because he spent all that work on it. Do you want to see if since you did it, do you want to see if it's still, if you
I
think
mean,
it
this
still
was
works?
what I put together, yeah.
Just
Let's
put
all-
all that work
It was so-
into it.
It was so long ago, I need to look up.
Let's all review it.
I probably have it in my
and be
email.
ready
If you
to
got,
comment
let me
on
know. Yeah, great.
it. Okay,
I just have serious concerns, with
Cool.
Holiday in the Ave coming up. I know we have to do the annual motion for, declaring these special events for insurance purposes. And I'm not entirely sure I feel comfortable or confident, being able to vote on that without having a definitive structure.
And maybe Thursday we can talk Sean into giving us a formal update
yeah, I asked him if he
Where
can use
we're
that
at.
one, so it's,
for phase 2.
okay,
I also want to add to the docket something that is incredibly important for us to start working on, considering the current economic climate challenges. With regards to municipal budgets, we should be working on budget projections, reviewing budget projections as it relates to this year and possibly looking at next year. And phase two is going to be, this is going to be another difficult tax year. But I just want to say that if our general operating is not within the tax cap, that's going to be a problem. I have a sense that we need to start beginning to look at the impact of taxes as an affordability issue. My taxes have gone up just over $450 over the last 5 years. And while I'm lucky that I can afford that and I value that, we have to recognize that there are people in this village where that is actually a significant financial hardship.
I agree, and I think that maybe the message to department heads should be that as budgets are being created, that the goal is to keep, outside of the bond stuff, is to keep the rest of it under the cap.
And, you know, one thing that I originally brought up when we started the strategic planning discussion, but we've never seemed to actually get into data. What is the cost per service for some of the things? Like, for example, loose leaf pickup. What does it actually cost a village resident to provide loose leaf pickup? What is the cost to provide yard waste pickup weekly versus bi-weekly versus once a month? You know, there is you can define services by a cost per service. How many students are we crossing unaccompanied by a minor, by crossing guards? Then we need to ask ourselves, if everyone's walking with a parent, does a parent need a crossing guard? You know, so there's data points that.
There's some, not all services, but many do.
Correct.
Well, I mean, some of the ones that we're charging residents outside of the village, there's a per resident cost for all of them.
Correct.
So when we're trying to have
comparisons.
comparisons of apples to apples. Interesting to note, tomorrow, the day after election day, is the town of Glenville's budget hearings, which is the day after election day. I know I say that out loud and not a lot of people understand that. You know, the supervisor's giving himself a raise in this budget that he's never been voted for. And so it's an interesting point to note when we're talking about budget cycles too. You know, it's an opportunity for a village resident to comment on the taxes they're being charged from the town.
Yes. Okay, thank you, guys. Can I get a motion for, I have new business, the resolution for corrosion control? I sent it.
I'll make a motion to whatever that is with the corrosion control.
Authorizing to go out to bid,
Authorize to go out to bid.
I'll second.
Okay, so this.
I read it, I just didn't-
As of the last meeting, we did get approved.
Yeah.
Our plan did get approved. Doug had said, once we get approved, the sooner we can go out for bid, the better. This is to
Yep.
let the board
Yep.
say that, yes, let's go out for bid.
All right.
I need individual, George,
All in favor? Aye.
Yep.
Sure, yep.
Justin, aye for me, and one abstention. Heather, she's not here.
And now I can make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Can I get a motion to adjourn? Second?
I did it, Justin seconded.